Welcome to the What's Your Weird Story podcast.
Everyone has at least one good story.
And some of us have stories that are just to the left of normal.
We're interested in the ones that push the boundaries of what we can perceive.
Stories that defy explanations.
Stories with an air of mystery.
Stories we might not share
for fear of being thought of differently.
But don't worry, we're all friends here. So, what's your weird story? Hello, and welcome to the What's Your Weird Story podcast. How you doing out there? I am Adam Beebe. I am one of your hosts, and with me, as always, is my hombre, my good pal, my buddy forever and ever, amen, Barry Johnston. How you doing, Barry?
Oh man, good. That made me feel good. That heart, that warms the heart. Warms the heart.
Well, you know, it's there. You're right there. You're right there. So yeah, man, guess what?
What?
We have a return guest who's not really a return guest.
Yeah. It's interesting because it was supposed to happen and then it didn't happen.
It was supposed to happen early on. We originally interviewed my friend Mike, Mikey, my little man, as I call him. We interviewed my friend Mike 8 months ago, before we even started the podcast on air. And there was some kind of technical issues. Difficulties. There were some problems. There was some kind of, whatever. So anyway, we had to reschedule the interview. And as it turns out, it was better that we did this.
Yeah.
Because it went from one story to having two incredible stories.
Oh, man.
This is one of my favorites.
Oh, my God, dude. It is. To say epic would be not even putting it into proper context, to be honest with you. It's just too good. The first story being a little bit more of a creepy story, and the second story just being a absolute hilarious, something that is, something that, somebody could very well stake their reputation on. It's a story that you could build an entire framework for your livelihood. It's just a great story. Great story.
There's a spooky one, and there's another one that's just it's gonna sound like some horse shit, but in this case, but it's completely true. And we've got Pics. That's what you do in the 21st century. Pixar didn't happen. Well, we got Pics. And this is not the other story with the Pixar didn't happen. He sent me a while ago, which we will not include on the podcast. So, thank you for joining us, Mike. Mike, what's your weird story?
Hey, so this one is one that I really hadn't thought about a lot until I learned about your podcast and what you were doing and everything. So this is something that happened back in the late 90s, when I was a teenager, maybe like 12 or 13. My dad used to go away for long periods of time in Central Europe, Switzerland, and Germany and such, and he would always come back with some sort of like a souvenir or whatever, and usually it was chocolate or something like that, something good. And he started bringing back at one point these marionettes, and so he'd bring one for my sister, he'd bring one for me. So he'd get me a little boy, he'd get her a little girl. He'd get me like an old man, he'd get her an old woman. And then he came back with a nurse for her and a harlequin sort of jester for me. And what made this one a little different than the others is that whereas the others were pretty friendly looking, this one, rather than having pupils in its eyes, it was just black with 4 dots to make up a little diamond. Really odd sort of look to the thing, but now, they were gorgeous. They were really well made.
Had you expressed at some point in your youth that you had interest in puppeteering, or was this something your father was a career choice your father was trying to put on you at a young age?
I feel like this is one of those sort of like he brought it back probably the first time, and it went over reasonably well, and then just kept doing it.
That was his cue. Yeah,
that was his. Yeah.
He was away long enough that he wasn't sort of understanding that. Like, no, bring a Nintendo game. Bring something that children play with in this time that we're living in right now.
Yeah, of course.
That's
what dads do.
I still don't know. I'm half convinced that your father wanted you to be a puppeteer. So, he had dreams of Jim Henson in his eyes for you.
I think that's it.
And you let him down.
Him with his background in mechanical engineering, my mother, the nurse, they're like, our child needs to do something impractical.
Right. Yeah.
If there's anything that we've learned from having steady work and a roof over our head, is that our child needs to take risks with something that's not even popular, like not even popular in entertainment.
To be fair, you didn't have to let them down. So
sure. Oh yeah. No, I found impracticality. I studied literature after all. But you can go around and teach literature, to go ahead and say like, well, I always have, I can always get a class, thrown together of aspiring puppeteers. That's not quite the same thing.
You say that, but I don't know. But I digress.
And and it's not like these weren't like, sweet looking Muppets or anything like that. That's like inviting to a small child where they want to see more. These are things that look like they were carved with like a knife from a block of wood.
Pretty rustic.
Yeah, it was. They're well done, but like, there's no. This isn't Sesame Street. This isn't inviting. Yeah. This isn't.
Yeah.
This isn't. There's nothing sweet, and less so with without eyes. I feel like that really draws the audience in.
Yeah. That's definitely there on the Bazaar. So,
so having it wasn't so much the thing. Like, I guess, we got it, and I really wasn't playing with the toys. So, he decided to hang them up in the room, so you could at least get a good look at them, and until the mood takes you, and you have to tell a story through marionettes.
He knew it was coming. He knew.
Yeah, I had all the pieces that you need: old man, little boy, Harlequin, to tell any story. Yeah. So
I'm sure there's places on the darknet that would go over real well. So.
Right. Yeah. Just the three archetypes.
Right.
But like, and they were nice enough. It was a nice little thing in the house. But it's one of those things where like sometimes you get a gift, and even if it's a child's thing, you're unsure that if you're meant to play with it, or if this is really just meant to be decoration. So other people can come by and go, oh right, a child. I understand the concept. You have some of those.
Yeah.
But so the way that he displayed them in the house was in the corner of my bedroom. He hung them from the ceiling with like a fishing line. Mm-hmm. So at a distance, it just looked like they're sort of suspended in air, which is fine because I get fishing line. I know how that works. What was odd about it though is while the old man and the little boy would remain completely static, the Harlequin would turn to different points in the room, and it seemed to me, and I don't know how many people should have been around, but it seemed to me that it was always facing where I was. So I'd be at my desk, I'd be doing something, and I'd look up and it's facing me. I go to the other part of the room and it's facing me. Every once in a while, I would notice that it's not facing me, only to look up and see it turning in my direction.
Oh man, that's a little unsettling. Yeah,
it creeps me out. It's so good.
But like, and it was one of these things where, you know, I tell my little sister, but I already had sort of a bad habit of trying to frighten her anyway. So there's no reason that she should believe me.
Right.
You know, as soon as I start suggesting like, well, maybe the doll is possessed, like then she's like, oh, wait, we've been through this before. Fool me 7 times.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I brought a friend of mine over to show him. And I was like, all right, so it's just like I told you, man. It's, you know, you watch. You know, I'm going to walk from the door to the other end of the room, and it's going to follow me, right? And then you're going to do it, and it's going to follow you because, right, it's got to be us opening the door and, like, the AC catching a different path, like a different draft through the room. Or it's got to be, you know, a body moving through the room that's just displacing enough to cause it to just get a little momentum, right? Mm-hmm. It couldn't weigh much on the fishing line. You know, it's light wood, whatever. And so my friend was like, all right, well, let's do it. And so he decided that he wanted to go first. So he walked across the room, and we waited for like a minute or two, and nothing. And so I walked across the room, and it turned.
Oh my God.
And
was your friend just freaking out, man? Was your friend?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because we were still very much, you know, children of the 80s, 90s, sort of like, you know, shock and horror is just sort of like now this is happening.
Right. That's great.
There's not that sort of, I don't know. I guess I had an overactive imagination anyway. So I was always living in terror, you know, at a certain point in the day, you know, whether that meant sort of like you have to turn the lights off at the bottom of a flight of stairs in order to leave a basement. And so you go up those stairs pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Or you hear a noise in the middle of the night, and it would get bad for me where, you know, you'd hear the noise that was, you know, behind you. If you're facing east, it's west. But I would get paranoid enough to think, no, don't look. It's a trick. You know, whatever's in your room is infiltrated. They're just pitching a rock over there so you'll look the other way.
Right.
Because I fully expected, you know, all right, if I look the other way, I know that when I look over, I won't see it. It won't be till I turn my head back to where it was that it'll be touching me nose to nose.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man.
And so, like, it really, I didn't really complain to my parents about it. I guess I just, you know, I told one of my friends about it, and it just sort of freaked me out. And then one day I came home, and it wasn't in my room anymore, you know. And I didn't think like, oh God, he's loose. You know, I didn't immediately jump to, you know, to that, but I wanted to know sort of what happened. And my parents were like, no, you know, we just made a decision. We're taking this one down. And they didn't.
So it's just the one.
They just took the one down, and they didn't. And there was no explanation. Like, I hadn't talked to them about it. I hadn't like complained about it. I chose not to really engage my sister with it. Like, some friends saw it. Because I really didn't like, I don't know. Also, I was feeling really weird and uncomfortable anyway, because I'm like, you know, how does it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think that maybe perhaps one of your parents saw something? Do you think that you didn't want to ask because you didn't want your parents to confirm that there's something weird about this one and not the rest of them, just that one?
Well, so you have to sort of like imagine the thing anyway. It's hard to sort of get it. And I guess there is something for whoever's listening. They're sort of probably picturing their own little version of it, you know, whatever, you know, whether it's their own innocuous version or their like overly frightening version of it. But the thing itself was this very slight sort of like, tall, frail, thin white Duke sort of body, with this like the Harlequin checkered sort of outfit, the red pom poms and the ruffled collar, but and red lips. And all it would do is, you could move the hands around, you could move the legs around, and it would, and its sort of trick is that it had a string that you could pull that would pull the two hands together, and it would offer you like a red rose. And so it was, it was a really like high contrast, really, really interesting looking thing. It wasn't inherently scary, it was just a little off. In the way that something without eyes is a little off. Mm-hmm. And so I got home that day and I wanted to find out what happened to it. And so I asked my parents and like, oh, you know what? We were in your room and we were thinking about it and we decided, we're gonna get rid of it. Or we put it away. And I asked them, well, what did you do with it? Where'd you put it? And they put it in a chest in the attic. One, that I didn't know that we had a chest in the attic. And two, I didn't like the sound of chest in the attic, and so I just sort of left it. I left it there. I went to check on it like years later when I was trying to move, to take it with me with other stuff that I had, and it was gone. And my parents sort of disagree as far as like when they got rid of it or where it went or this or that, and that's fine. But yeah. It was just this odd little thing, and maybe that's it. Maybe I took like the sort of the lesson of, the protagonist in any of the horror movies where it's, something odd's going on and you don't engage it and you just go on with your life and someone else gets killed. But yeah, that's the weird. That's the closest that I have to anything supernatural. A draft that has been read into perhaps too much.
So you didn't want to push the issue, so you just kind of let it go. We let the marionette go. I love it.
It was one of those where it just sort of
5:00.
It just sort of did its own. I don't know. It just seemed to carry on the path of least resistance.
So what became of the marionette? I mean, is it still exist? Your parents have it, or is it gone altogether, or what?
It's gone. It's somewhere else. I don't know where.
Wow, crazy, creepy as fuck. Yeah. I wish we had a picture of it. You should ask your mom if you got any photos of little Mikey
back in the day
with the marionette. That would be really cool to post up if you had that. So
I'll go dig through the pre-digital photos.
Yes. And the babysitter girl, she picked up the phone, and there was a policeman on the other side, and he said, "We've tracked the phone call, and it's coming from inside the house."
Whoa.
Yeah, dude.
I love those urban legend stories.
Dude, I do too. And you remember the one where the girl, it's always the babysitter or it's the kids making out in Lover's Lane, but there's the one with the girl who comes up and she finds the kids are watching TV and she turns them around and their face has SpaghettiOs.
Oh, man. Or the hook guy. Remember the hook guy?
The hook was hanging from the rear view mirror. Yeah. So if you got a story that is similar to any of those awesome urban legends, we want to hear it. Because, those urban legends, man, they started off as somebody's true life weird story. It's got to be true somewhere. All right. So now you've got another story for us. And this is another one of those new areas of Weirdsville. This is more kind of along the lines of it's weird that you pulled this off. I should say, me personally knowing you, it's not weird at all that you pulled this off. But other people hearing this story are just going to be like, no, it's just beyond. But like I said, we do have a photographic proof that this actually did happen. So break it down, man.
Okay. So in much the same way that this one sort of gets to a place of like, well, that genuinely is strange, but then doesn't go any farther. Like, should we keep pushing? No, there's nowhere good to push this. I think that whoever's listening will certainly understand. Like, you're right. Yeah, there's certainly a place to knock it off.
Yeah.
So this is many years later. This is a handful of years ago, and I'm in Istanbul, and where I lived for several years, and in the way that a large city, a large international city has people coming in it and out of it, all the time. You just sort of get used to the fact that there's something big going on, or someone is in town that you wouldn't expect. Pop stars and world leaders and this sort of thing, big names. And my wife and I were walking back from this area of town called Breakfast Street, or affectionately called Breakfast Street, in that like Turkish breakfast culture is its own thing, and it's just breakfast restaurant after breakfast restaurant, breakfast restaurant. And as we're walking back through these places, we're seeing these signs for the ex-president of Uruguay, Jose Mujica, is going to be in Istanbul, or at least his book is going to be in Istanbul with the people who had either edited or co-wrote his memoir with him. We're going to be doing a book talk. And I remembered that I'd seen something on Twitter or this or that, that he in fact was heading to Turkey. And I thought, well, what are the odds? Like, this is the guy, this is the people's president, right? The guy that he didn't take a salary. He lived incredibly modestly, and although if you're Googling him right now, if you're looking at his face right now, you're going to see like what looks like a very sweet old man, like a very gentle, sort. In his prime, this man was a gorilla. This man was going toe to toe with police and was shot many times. Like, he's had a pretty incredible, harrowing sort of existence, and really, sticks to these, his convictions, and really is, quite a remarkable person. And it's important that you understand that this, how important this man's life is, and how, incredible the things he did over the course of it are, so that you understand what a incredible jackass I am when I
attempt to do whatever it is you're going to do.
When I see his poster and I think like, oh, well, I have my plans for the day now.
Now, let me describe just the impish glee that has come over Mike's face, because I know where the story goes, because I said, I want this to be on, and this is going to go some interesting places. So.
I can't wait.
So first off, he's okay. Like, at no point. He was never suspended from a ceiling, nor was he stuck away in a chest in the attic. He left. He was out of sight, but I'm sure he's fine. He's fine in the sense that when he travels, he has his own security, and he has fixers in this city, and he's a very high profile, sort of person. And I don't know how much of that I was considering when I said to my wife, like, hey, look, we need to get to this bookshop. We need to find this place very quickly. But I have to run home to the apartment first because I need to get something. Now, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't know why I needed it, but I made a decision that something was going to be made easier. Something was going to be better. I don't know, if I took a rubber horse head with me.
Of course.
In the way where when you're living in a foreign country and, your command of the language isn't great.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to have a little something extra.
You got to make a statement, man. Yeah. You got to draw some attention.
Perhaps maybe it'll help you blend in. It depends. I don't know who was going to show up. I didn't know what to expect. When I got in there, it was this long line of people, all very excited to hear from him, in the sense that once you're outside of the U.S., people actually have a concept of what the left of politics actually are.
Uh-huh.
And so they have some reverence for this guy. They're really excited to meet him, and they're taking him seriously. And I want to take him seriously too. And I've got his book, and I want to read his book, and I want to I want to know what's going on. But I also really, for some reason, I can't shake the fact that I can be just a real jackass. And so I waited in line patiently with my wife, with the horse head sort of folded up under my arm. And when I saw that it was getting sort of late, and the line was sort of was still dragging on, and at some point this man, he's no spring chicken. He's been on a long international flight. He needs to get some rest.
Yeah.
It'd be kicking any of our butts if we were pulling those same hours and transport and all that business. And so I didn't explain anything to my wife. I just told her, wait here in case I need to come back into line. And I engaged his security, and began talking to them, and then got a hold of the fixer that was in charge. And I didn't really have any sort of plan of what I was going to say until I was saying it. And I introduced myself and said, so hey, look, I have been trying to get in touch with some of the team here at the bookshop to help to coordinate this, but crossed wires and all that. I'm with the EU.
Of course.
A good foot in the door.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm with them.
Sounds legit too. I mean, yeah.
Oh, people have heard of that.
Well,
it's a great big organization.
Only someone from the EU would introduce himself as someone from the EU. I mean, how many people do that in your life? Not many. Only people that would be.
I imagine more Europe. Yeah, but
and let me throw this in. Here's the thing about Mike, as I've known Mike for several years. He is very much a silver-tongued devil. He can talk his way into or out of just about any situation, and it's mainly because he believes in his own power and abilities to a point of foolishness that he can do these things. And a lot of the times they work out and they happen, as you will see. So
I love it.
Yeah, this is from Adam and I, our first trip out of the country ever, when we were quite young.
Was this the famous trip to England?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, our first destination out of the
Love
U.S.
it. Yes.
was London. We had gone there and
I heard about it.
We spent a good amount of time trying to sort of prove the point that we are too young and too just sort of dopey American to the point where anybody would not want to be unable to answer our questions, or to claim or to show that they are not familiar with something that we want to know more about or we're asking about. Whether it's because everybody wants to just be a good host, to confused looking tourists, or if they just genuinely have a need to answer these questions, whether or not they know actual answers. And so we ended up introducing or asking people if they knew us. We didn't introduce that, we didn't say, like, do you know me? But we would ask them if they knew about, and then we would give our names, or we'd ask them if they had heard about, a tragic demise of my name or his name, or
Yes.
or
Did you get some good answers?
we got some great ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
and we also we it wasn't like we just went up and asked people. We did have a video camera with us, so it was kind of like we were prompting this as, "Hey, we're part of
Jay on the street or something,
right? Something like that. We're getting responses." There was something to do with the National Rodeo Convention. There was something to do with. I think
worked pretty quickly once it had like sort of turned to the point where it's very likely that one of us was involved in the rodeo, or may in fact have been the Marlboro Man. At some point. By the way, non-smoker. So like there was nothing. Like, but they don't know, because they're hearing the name and they're just imagining. But sure, right, the cowboy hats, that business. Somehow it morphed into that we were working with the International Rodeo Association, and then asking people flat out if they thought that there was a place for the IRA in London.
That's hilarious.
It's charming. It's a good thing. It's a good thing people didn't really. Just take the camera and beat us to death.
This is back when the IRA still meant the Irish Republican Army. So
it still does.
It still does. Yeah, but I mean, we were being.
There's no such thing as the International Rodeo Association. Apologies to, of course, the International Rodeo Association. I'm aware that you exist. But it was with that sort of like just nonsense of just. It had to be with something. Acronyms. People like acronyms. People
they do.
Trust acronyms. But then it was sort of. I realized that it was, in introducing myself as a representative of the EU was a big one. But it's such a large organization. It has so many, tributaries or whatever. So who knows?
Yeah.
And so that very quickly turned into like, oh, and you must be looking at this head that I'm carrying with me. Oh, well, let me explain. I'm with a portion of the EU whose focus is education, specifically highlighting luminaries, right? People from politics, people from the arts, people who have really made a change in the world, and really, have been committed, convicted to what they believe, and that's why I will photograph myself as a horse with them, so that later I and the other horses, because of course there's many. Right, all over the world, all gathering photographs of ourselves with whomever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
There's somebody in Southeast Asia, Asia getting photographs with, politicians and pop stars and so on. And there's people, in Brazil doing the same. And here I am in Istanbul, attempting to do this right now,
ready for my picture.
Right. Yeah, I'm ready to get a photograph with him, and can we?
That's such a ludicrous idea. It's great, but it's great because it would work. I mean, I would think.
In the same time, and you have to, but it's just. You realize, like, being a president, being whatever else, it's a job like anything else. At some point, at the end of the day, it's just an old man, it's an old lady who've been through a long day, and are having to put up with a lot of nonsense because clearly I am having some sort of difficulty empathizing with, like, but so. So I talked to the fixer, and the fixer talks to their security, and they talk to their people, and they talk to their people, and soon I'm speaking with the first lady, and she thinks it is wonderful, and she really supports it, and I can't tell if she is that much more clever than I am. I'm assuming that she is.
Yeah.
But she's whether she's that much more clever than I am, I'm assuming that she's that much more clever. But when I you know, I couldn't tell if she was just encouraging this to happen just because she realized what a schmuck.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Right.
and watch me just sort of, you know, show off my judo skills and like take this horse's ass and deliver him to my husband so that he can deal with this.
So great.
Right. And so part of me really just wants to believe that this is just her, you know, somehow winning an argument they had on the flight there. Yeah. Like, you know, so she gives the okay. They wave me over, and nobody was getting photos with him. Nobody was interacting with him. He was laying back and he was, you know, signing some books and saying hi, but there was no interacting with the man. And suddenly, all of his security have sort of like squeezed us together so that and I guess if you see the photo, you'll see, but what looks like an incredible Renaissance portrait of sort of the line of the First Lady leaning over and pointing to indicate to him so that his eye line will notice the large rubber horse standing in a sweater and scarf across from him, and just the look of genuine surprise, as it should be, genuine surprise, right?
So speaking of the looks of genuine surprise, Barry, I want you to look at your phone right now.
Oh my God, man. Oh, that's so good. Oh, man. Oh. Okay, please go. Continue, man. Continue.
But so, and it's the thing, and like, and there's no like, of course, I it never occurred to me, and I never meant, you know, in any way for any of it to be in any sort of disrespect to anyone involved whatsoever. And I could tell by the like, and you can see in the photo like the laughs on some people's face where like they just don't care.
Yeah. He's looking at you like, what the fuck did I get myself into here, man?
Right. And this is, and you have to understand, like, he's coming after Gezi, this huge, like 4-month period of like, you know, the entire like left of the city going toe to toe with the police, and, you know, and the center of the town becoming a demilitarized zone. This is shortly before, you know, like the country has a coup, you know?
Yeah.
So anyone traveling to the country is getting all these like, these indications that, like, you know, hey, things are iffy right now, and, you know, watch out, and there's a power grab from Erdogan and all these other things going on. Yeah. And for all the things that they're like legitimate things they had to take seriously.
Here's a guy in the freaking.
Here's just a
oh my God.
That has decided, like, yeah, but this is what I want to do. Like, but.
So great. Oh my God.
So we're gonna have that picture for everybody to see on the Instagram.
Picture says everything you need to know about.
Oh yeah,
this
we'll have to watermark the heck out of that one.
Yeah.
Yes, because God knows that it deserves to be an oil painting.
Oh, yeah, it really
so possessed. Please send the myriad oil paintings too.
Yes, if you're so inspired, and I don't know how you couldn't be, but if you are so inspired to duplicate this in an oil form, you know, let us know, and we can get you a way to hook up with Mike, and so he can adorn his mantle with your artwork, because it is a rare thing of beauty and an inspirational thing, and a completely absurd.
Oh, man.
So you've got this picture, you've been introduced. I mean, so right now here is, you know, this former president turning around and seeing you. What goes on from this point?
Well, so it was, we had a quick talk, and it was all really good, but the poor guy, and this just makes it worse, where like it is one of these things where I cherish the photograph, and I love it, and it's great if I can forget about like everything around it.
Yeah, right, right.
To appreciate it more, because as I talk to him more, I realize like the poor guy, had clearly, was still tired from the flight, was still, trying to get into the swing of, the time difference and all this. And it really was just one more completely nonsensical thing. If at that point, if the table that he'd been sitting at and signing all day stood up and walked away, like, I feel like he would have been like, yep, and now that's happening.
Yeah.
In the way that he could be sort of jaded and apathetic to the point of a 90s child. Like,
I'd like to think that you offered some comedy relief in the middle of some craziness, I mean, I think that's the kind of thing that he may never even think about that thought ever again, but if you did...
He may, but you wonder if it's one of those things where it's like, I'm a serious man with serious problems on my mind.
Right,
hey, look at that guy. He's a fish.
Right.
Get back to what I'm doing.
It's so great, man. It's so great, dude. It's so amazing. What a hell of a story, man. Holy shit, dude.
So good. So good. Oh, yeah. That's if it didn't have the picture, it just wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't be believable. Absolutely would not be believable. But it's there, and it's not photoshopped. It's the legitimate thing, and
it just adds context to the whole thing, dude.
So good. It's so good. So,
wow, man,
awesome.
And that's it. Yes, go and be inspired, and go and be a colorful schmuck. Be a huge jackass.
Did you just feel like after that was done, like, I fucking did it, man? I pulled one of the great things in my life. It was a moment
I really hope not. I hope that it's not one of those. Like, well, time to hang it up.
That's hilarious.
It's all downhill from here.
It was a highlight, man. It was a highlight, It's
it's not but certainly. I mean, you've dodged lots of bullets. You've pulled off some amazing stunts, and that's definitely one of the top 3 that I can think of. So
it's one of several that we can talk about on this thing.
And there's also that. Because number 1 and number 2 are certainly things that we can't talk about publicly, because you are.
Just in case anyone else is curious, they don't involve misrepresenting myself as a member of any other government or organization. It doesn't involve politicians or their security details. Off the top of my head.
Oh man, so good.
Well, Mike, thanks, dude. Thanks for joining us, man. Thanks for those amazing stories. And man. So you got anything going on? Anything you want to plug while you're here?
And to plug? No, not at the moment right now. Just I'll let you know if I track down like a ghost hunting kit or or something Bigfoot related.
Excellent. Hey, see if you can track down a picture of you with the demon doll mannequin, and so we can bookend the episode with your photographs there, both then and now. So that would be really now-ish, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you just concentrate on it hard enough, it'll find you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's comforting.
That's why it's there. That's why it can offer you a rose.
Oh man.
Don't you feel safer already?
Oh, so much. Well, thanks again, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, that's a nice t-shirt you got on there.
Oh, thanks, dude. It's brand new. Do you like that? It's one of the official What's Your Weird Story t-shirts.
Where'd you get that?
It's funny that you ask. I just got it off the brand new Spreadshirt.com site for the What's Your Weird Story podcast. There's no www. You just go straight to shop.spreadshirt.com/what's without the apostrophe WHATS -YEOR WEIRD-STORY, and that'll take you right there.
I mean, you can never own enough clothing.
Well, it's true, Barry. There's t-shirts for the ladies because, they're cut differently. There's hoodies, which are really cool. There's 2 different kinds of hoodies, and there's also tote bags, so you can tote your stuff.
That's so cool, man.
So if you guys go out to spreadshirt.com, What's Your Weird Story, through March 16th, you will get a 15% off coupon on any of your purchases, and they're all really good priced, and they're good quality material. Currently, there are 2 designs, but there will be more going up very soon, so just keep your eyes out for that. And if you decide to get one of our shirts, tag yourself on Instagram to ours or Facebook, show your love, show us what you got. Let's see your true colors. So my favorite thing from that is from the second story of the interview. Firstly, the first story was creepy as all get out.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love a demon doll. I love a weird thing like that.
Yeah, of course.
It's fantastic. And hopefully, Mike's going to be looking for some pictures. Hopefully, we'll have some of those to set up as well. But what I loved, my favorite thing, dude, is while we're doing the interview and Mike's telling the story, because I had heard a rough version of the story before.
Yeah.
Because we talked and I was like, dude, because he was just telling me it.
Yeah.
He wasn't bringing it to as for the episode. I'm like, no, I want this for the podcast. Yeah. And so he sent me the picture. And I was like, oh, my God, this is amazing. So we're sitting there and we're hearing him tell the story. And then you're sitting there and you're just enjoying, because it's a great story. You're eating it up. Yeah. And I'm waiting. I've got this image downloaded on my phone. And I'm waiting. And I'm waiting for you to get to a perfect point to hit send. And to be like, bam. And like, this is it right here. I'm waiting for the horse head to drop, dude. And as soon as and it's just like, it's language even just set it up perfectly. And then I hit send, and then all of a sudden you cackle out of nowhere, and it's just a legitimate, true reaction.
I mean, the thing is, Mike's got a way with words, you know, and he's a great storyteller.
Oh yeah,
and but to have an image to go along with that, man, is just priceless. And it just absolutely, that picture itself encapsulates everything about that story. The look on his face as a guy with the horse head standing next to him, and he's trying to figure out what the fuck is going on here. I mean, you can't write a story better than that, dude.
No, it's so good, dude. Mike and I had a lot of adventures, as we alluded to when we went to London, including when we went to the Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. They had a little horror, kind of like a haunted house walkthrough down in the bottom, in the basement, of course, for the tortures and stuff. And somehow, I don't like haunted houses. This may be shocking to our friends. I love hearing all these stories. Yeah. I love hearing all this creepy stuff. I don't like going to haunted houses.
You don't want to get too close.
I don't like being scared.
Yeah.
I don't like people jumping out at me. I have a natural reaction to kind of like defend myself, right? Mm-hmm. This is not my joy. And it's always been like that. You remember, I remember when we were little, you and some of our other friends would go to these legendary Halloween haunted trails and stuff like that. Yeah. And I would never go because it was just too much for me. Yeah. Don't like that stuff.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Mikey talked me into going through this thing. And I'm at the point like 28 or so, 27, 28 years old. Yeah. So it's not like I'm a kid. I'm still,
you're a grown man. You're grown man.
Pretty much a grown ass man. Talks me into going through this. And I'm kind of tall, I'm about 6'2"ish, something like that. Mike he's shorter than me. And so somehow we ended up with a group of 4 of us, 2 girls and Mike and me, going through. And I was at the back. And about 10 yards in, all of a sudden, I'm at the front, right? I don't know how this happened, but it happened. So anyway, we're walking through, and I'm giggling like a schoolgirl, and I have to point at everything to say, that's real, that's not real, that's a person, that's not a person, so that I can adjust and keep myself from freaking out the whole time with all these things out at me, anticipating the next monster or whatever. So we go through, and it's not even that long of a deal, but it seemed like it went on forever. And so we go through it, and I'm just like, I'm exhausted because this is taking a lot out of me.
Yeah.
And we get to the other end, and Mike turns to me and he says, "Hey, hold the camera. Videotape me as I jump out and scare everybody after they come out."
Oh, no.
So I'm like, okay. Because I'm thinking somebody's going to punch my friend.
Yeah.
And I'm going to videotape it. Not, this is a bad idea. Actually, I probably thought to myself, this is a bad idea, but I'm going to go with it. So anyway, we get out there and we set up. And so I got the camera focused on people coming out. They can see me plain as day. Here I am videotaping. So they're thinking, oh, I must be waiting for my friends or whatever. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this little goblin jumps out. Ha! Scares them. They're all freaking out. And then they immediately realize it's not somebody in a costume that's part of the exhibit.
Yeah.
It's another patron to the museum. It's another just street person. It's a strange little American man jumping out and yelling, "Ha!" at them.
That's great.
He's fantastic. We did that, and we also knew when we needed to move on because I think the word started spreading that there are people doing that. So we
hilarious.
Shut down.
Dude. That's awesome.
Yeah,
it
was fantastic.
So he's always been full of mischief, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's great, man. Well, that was a great story. I mean, hopefully he can come back, and I'm sure he's got more, and share some more of those crazy ass stories he's got.
I'm sure he's gonna find himself in some more extremely strange, ridiculous situations.
Yeah.
So that'd be perfect for his little hollow of Weirdsville.
For sure, man. And I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as we did. Cause
for sure.
It was just such a great story to have on, lighten the mood, and really just have fun, and we appreciate him coming on and sharing with us, man.
Yeah, well, thanks again, Mike. I appreciate it, and we do hope to hear from you soon. So, thanks everybody for listening, for tuning in to the podcast. As always, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories. So contact us in our various ways. You know how to get a hold of us by now. If not, look in the little part underneath where you downloaded this. It should have all our contact info. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Be safe.
Be weird.
As always, if you have a weird story, we want to hear it.
If you have a lot of them, we want to hear them all.
We can't do this podcast without your invaluable contributions.
Whether it's sharing your stories,
listening,
rating,
and spreading the word about the podcast. Thanks for listening. Until next time, be safe.
Be weird.
The stories presented on the What's Your Weird Story podcast are, to our knowledge, true experiences that our guests have had. We can't take the time to research all claims made, and besides, it's just not as fun.